Hi guys, welcome back for another episode on Troubles Restoration. Once again, you're going to have to bear with me as I try and stitch together some kind of storyline for today's episode. In today's episode, I'm going to be combining days 3 and 4. Let's get these doors stripped. Hi guys, it's Wednesday evening and I've decided to try and buy myself some time. So I've come out into the garage to take the door card off. So yeah, hopefully this shouldn't be too long a job. It looks pretty simple on the surface, just a few screws, and then I can get the card off and then take the door furniture off and the external handle. Before we get going on the driver's door, let me just show you around the passenger door so you can see what we've got to do. All of the fixings are, I don't know what you'd call it, but mechanical types of fixings. They're all kind of screws and whatnot. There's no real clips that you have to try and get behind. So we have a top piece of trim, a door card, you have a door handle, a window winder, which works like this, whee, and a door handle, doesn't work. We then have the door lock on the end of the door and an external door handle. Look at that beauty. Right, let's get into it. So I started off taking off this top bit of door trim. This was only held on with 2 screws. This one here, and then another on the other end. These were both Phillips and thankfully hadn't rusted just yet. With both the screws out, I could now take off this top piece of trim. I was quite intrigued to see what I would find behind it. As you can see, it doesn't look too bad, although this is just the top and normally water sits at the bottom, so we're just going to have to wait and see what the bottom of the door looks like. I then started on the screws that were on the perimeter of the door card. I did eventually realise that I had to take off both my window winder and my door handle before I could get the door card off, but yes, I started with these door screws. This is probably a good opportunity to explain why I'm stripping the door down while it's still on the car and not taking the door off the car first and stripping it on a bench. One of the main reasons for this is because of space. If I take the door off the car, I've got quite a big lump to store. At the moment, it's stored quite nicely on the car in its door jamb area. Another reason is when it's on the car, it's actually quite easy to work on. It's fixed. The door is held by the A-post. If I took the door off the car and then had it on a bench, I'd then have the door rocking around. Some of the fixings that required a bit more force wouldn't be as easy to undo because the door would be moving. And I just thought there'd be more chance of me causing damage to the door doing it this way. So yeah, that's why I decided to strip the door while it was on the car.
Don't get them leveled up.
This door's not a good way.
What's all snapping?
The screws. The door card screws weren't in a great way. A few of them snapped and this one had stripped its thread, so it was just spinning. I could actually just pull it out of the door skin. On a positive note, I did get them all out, so I could then start on this window winder and then the door handle. Door furniture, such as window winders and door handles, they all typically are fixed in a very similar way. On this car, if you push the spacer back, oh, look, the pin just even fell out. Let me just try and turn this round so that doesn't happen. You can see here a hole with a pin going through it. To get the pin out, I used a very small Allen key, which I could push through the hole, which would then push the pin out. If you look carefully, you can see the pin coming out. Once I'd removed the pin, I was then able to take off the window winder handle off its spline and then take the Bakelite washer off. I then repeated the process for the door handle. This was exactly the same. There was this little washer that was hiding a little pin. Once I pushed it back, I could get to the pin, push it out with my Allen key, and then take the handle and the washer off. There we go. Come off. Voila, off the spline. One door handle, one pin, and one Bakelite washer. These are a fortune online, so going to put these in bubble wrap. Right, so now we've got all of the screw fixings out. I've taken my window winder off and my door handle off. This door card, I hope, lots of rust falling off. Should now lift off. Okay, it's not. So the door card has a little bit of trim that hooks it on all the way along here. As you can see, it looks in quite good condition this side, but as we go down here, the door starts to take a turn for the worse. There's been some water in here and it started rusting, and I think it's kind of seized on this end. So I'm just going to get a screwdriver under here and try and lever it up. With that front edge finally freed off, I could then remove the door card. One door card off and one inner door skin, which on the whole could look worse. Top bit's not so great. Yeah, gonna need a bit of work up there. But you can get new door skins, so that's fine. We can put a new door skin on if that's what she needs. Now, just before I put this aside, I just want to take off this handle. Looks very nice. A little spring here. Back here, just be careful with this. I'm actually sure what that is. We have a bit of carpet for the glass window to slide down. I guess that might dry it or clean it. Here we have some small nuts. So I'll just undo those and take the grab handle off. I'm not sure why I didn't use a socket and ratchet for these, but anyway, I didn't. So here's me flip-flopping a spanner. I then undid the other nut, but managed to completely miss the camera. With the door card off and stripped, I then started removing the window frame from the door. This was fixed to the door with a number of bolts. As you might be able to tell, some of these were pretty tight, but I did eventually manage to get them undone. I've got a pretty bad habit of thinking I'll be able to undo a fixing by hand before I actually can. This is another classic example. With all the window frame fixings undone, there were quite a few of them. 2 on the front of the door, 2 on the inside of the skin, a number on the bottom of the door, and 1 on the back of the door. I thought the last thing I then had to do, before I could finally get the door frame out, is undo the window winder mechanism from this inner door skin. This was fixed to the door with just 4 bolts. Okay, so I was wrong. I thought once I'd undone the window winder mechanism, I'd just be able to lift the window frame out and then take out the window glass and the window winder mechanism attached. But unfortunately, it didn't quite go like this. For the life of me, I couldn't get the window frame out of the door, and to save some space on Apple's iCloud storage, I stopped filming. Online I had read that no matter what I do, I should not take the glass out of the window winder mechanism. Doing as the internet told me, I didn't take the glass off the window winder mechanism. But this meant that I actually couldn't take the glass out of the frame rails and then spring the frame rails together to get the window frame out of the door. The reason I needed to spring the legs together was to allow these metal plates, which were brazed to the window frame, to clear the door sheet metal. The next day with my dad's help, and by help I mean him telling me that the window frame was never going to come out of the door without me taking the glass out of the frame first, I did finally manage to get the window frame out of the door. But unfortunately, I may have forgotten to film it. So here's the door completely stripped. Luckily, Trouble has 2 doors. Let's get started on the passenger side. Hi guys, today we're going to be taking off the passenger side door. On this door, I stripped it in a slightly different order. I started this time with removing the door handle and the window winder. As before, I used an Allen key to push out the little pin. Shit. That doesn't go in the hole. Now I've actually got an Allen key that will fit in the hole. You should, see that? The pin, just work its way out. There it is. Here's my pin. Just remove the Allen key. And now my door handle should hopefully slide off the spline. Time for the window winder. By now I was pretty confident with my process. A top restoration tip, never get too confident. Nothing happens, good. So I'm just gonna try this side.
Pin not moving. Is it the right size pin?
I think the pin has been hammered in.
You might have to tap it out.
I tried to follow the same tried and tested process to take this last window winder handle off. I wasn't able to generate enough force with my Allen key to push this little pin out. So what we did was make a small punch out of a nail. We just took a nail and we ground the point off the nail to make a small diameter punch. Let's see if this works. There we go, it's out. So I guess that's been put in and then punched, which means the window winder wasn't going to fall off, but made it a bit harder to get it off. Now wiggle this, hopefully, off the spline, or not. There we go. Off the spline, and my little washer. With both the window winder and the door handle off, I then took off the top bit of trim, and then undid, or sheared, it was kind of a mixture of the two, the door card screws. We've removed all the screws. You may have seen one of them broke, a few of them ended up just snapping off, not the end of the world. So to now get it off, oh nice, look at all this rust. Yeah, good. Pull the bottom out to clear the splines and then just lift it up. And that's one door card. Now the door card's off, the next thing I'm going to do is just remove these door weather seals. The front one is glued on and held with one screw at the front here. So when I take this off, once I'd undone this screw, I then used a scraper to separate the seal from the door. Don't worry guys, I'm not planning on reusing this seal, but I did want to try and get it off in one piece. As you'll see, this wasn't very successful. Okay, so that's the front door seal. It's not in a great way, but it's also very brittle, look. It will just crack, so I wasn't really going to reuse this anyway. The rear door seal wasn't screwed, it was just glued, so I just got the scraper on it again. This one came off like butter. So now the door seals are off, you can get at all of the bolts that are holding the window frame in. There's a bolt in here, a bolt in here. This is a window frame bolt here. There's another window frame bolt here. There's a window frame bolt here, and then you also have several on the bottom of the door. After already shearing one too many fixings for my liking, I decided it'd be wise to lubricate these bolts with some WD-40 before I started undoing them. Once all lubed up, I started on these front two. And that's not going to fit in that hole. Wow, okay. That hole's significantly smaller than the one on the other side. I get in that one. Fortunately, I could get my socket through the other access hole, although it doesn't sound like my WD-40 did much. Nice, sounds great. It definitely sounded like it needed more WD-40. I even gave the top bolt some because I was optimistic I was eventually getting my socket in there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the WD-40's just taken the edge off that shriek. It's a little less painful on the ears now. One bolt, one washer. So we couldn't get a socket in this top hole. The way Porsche used to finish doors and they almost used it as a type of filler was with leading. As you can see here, there's lead. This is a soft metal. This isn't steel, this is lead. So what I'm just gonna do is just file this back because they've over leaded this hole to the point where I can't actually get a socket in. So I'm using a very small domed round edged file. Hopefully we got that in. Lefty loosey, there we go. Nice. Okay. A nut, and there is a washer in here somewhere, which I'll fish out. It's in there. I'll get it in a second. With these two window frame bolts finally out, I then removed all the other window frame bolts. After making my eardrums bleed taking out the first two, I gave them all another dose of WD-40. It probably didn't have enough time to soak in and do anything, but definitely had some kind of placebo effect. With all the window frame bolts out, as I learned from the other door, the next job is to take the window glass off the window winder mechanism and out of the window frame. To do this, I had to take off this lower arm, and then I could slide the window winder wheels out of the track that the glass was in. This was quite fiddly, and I can see why everyone online was telling me whatever I do, don't take the glass out of the track. Putting it back in is not going to be fun. This is a bit of an art. That's out. I've dropped the spindle down to the front here.
You want me to hold?
There we go. I think it's out of that one. And
Go backwards.
out of that one. See? Okay, now the glass. The glass is free to move. Just trying to get this out. Here we go. Here it is. Here he is. Okay. So what I'm really looking forward to doing is putting this back in with newly painted doors. That's going to be nice. But that's the door winder. And then you just basically
get awfully tired.
leave your dad to hold this bit of glass. Right, I'm just going to manually slide it down, spring out the front rail, and now it's out. And I'm just going to rest that in the door. With the glass out, I could now spring my window frame legs together and remove the frame. Or at least I thought I'd be able to. Pull something. I've left a bracket on.
Could you say that again?
There may be another, there could potentially be, so it's just another bracket somewhere up there. Okay, so I've just removed this front bracket, which sits on this leg. It's the very front leg. It's what this bolt goes into. Once I'd removed this little elbow bracket, I could finally remove the window frame from the door. Second time lucky. One frame. Nice. Once I'd got the window frame out, I could then take the glass out from within the door. I don't think I've ever handled something with so much care. These can't be easy to come across. With the window frame out and the glass also out, the door is nearly stripped. I've just got to get the door handle mechanism and door lock mechanism off. These two can't be too hard, right? I started with removing the wire pull on the internal door handle mechanism. This wire connects this mechanism to the door lock mechanism. It was pretty easy to take off, it's just one clamping grub screw. Next, I undid these two bolts that were holding the internal door handle mechanism onto the door skin. These two were pretty easy. So that's the, that spring might have been the reason why my door handle didn't really enjoy working, or didn't enjoy springing back, let's say. Now for the door lock mechanism. On paper, this is pretty easy. I've just got to take the pull wire off, which had already been done for me, thanks to some excessive rust, and then undo 4 little screws. Little they might be, but they were also very tight. No matter how much I straddled the door, I couldn't get this screw undone. These screws are very tight. I've gone through them with a scribe to try and clean out the threads because the car's been oversprayed. And I've also gone around the edge of them to try and break any paint, just to help me. But something else I'm going to do is release any kind of best way to call it, I call it a stiction, by giving them a little shock. I didn't want to shock them too much in case I dented the panel. It's pretty thin sheet metal, and as we've seen, not necessarily in the best condition. They come undone. Okay, some movement. I managed to get 3 of the 4. I think it's time to invest in an impact driver. The last job was to take the door handle off. There's just one screw on the inside of the door skin on the front. Quite awkward to get to. Okay. Oh, I did have a screw. There we go. One screw. Looks nice, hey? Now, so now that's off, the door handle is free. With the screw out, all I now had to do was unhook the front of the door handle from under the outer door skin. Well, I think they look quite good. These are almost ready to go back on.
Patina. The ultimate patina.
That's a wrap on stripping Trouble's doors. I hope you enjoyed watching this part of Trouble's restoration. If you want to continue following my journey with Trouble and her restoration, please subscribe. See you next week.